Okay. Where's my microphone? There we go. Okay. Welcome to part 4 already of the Dactyl Manuform build stream. I'm Kevin. Today we are going to add a couple more things to the case that we've been working on. On this side, we still need to add a couple more things. So one of the things that we have to do when we're making a split keyboard is we have to make it possible for the two halves to communicate with each other. So what you'll see in a lot of the like tutorials or build streams or whatever for the Dactyl Manuform is some people will use a TRRS jack, which is fine. The reason that I don't really love using those is that on those jacks, when you plug them in and take them out, and the keyboard is turned on, you're actually shorting out things that shouldn't be shorted out. So if you can remember not to plug it in and take it out while the keyboard is on, then that's no problem. It's not a big deal. I just imagine that I would not remember to do that. So it's a little bit safer and I think actually cheaper to use the RJ9 connectors. And this one is, I think there are also quite a few tutorials that have this in it. But this took me a while to figure out because I'm not really super familiar with these types of jacks. But it's not a regular phone jack. I thought it was, but it is not. So a regular phone jack, like the kind I think that would go into the wall, I think it has six wires in it. So it has 6 leads in here. That will not work, at least with this case design, the one that's pretty commonly available. So the one that you actually need is this one, which is 4 pins, okay? So 4 instead of 6. And I was able to get these on AliExpress, I think. It was like, I think this is more than hopefully I'll ever need in my life, but this is like 50 of them, I think it was, for, I don't know, around $10 or something like that, maybe even less. So, and these are actually nicer than I thought they would be. They have the little block here where it plugs in. It's got a decent amount of wire coming out of it, and actually all of these wires, believe it or not, have tinned tips, so it makes them a little bit easier to work with and connect to things. So that's a little bonus there. So for this side, for each board, obviously you'll need 2 of these, one for each half. This is what we're going to be doing, is creating a serial link between the 2 Pro Micros, basically, so that they can talk to each other and send power and information back and forth. So with these, they're so close to just being able to pop right in there, but of course that can't be that easy. So this little thing that's sticking off of the side here, I like to have it slid all the way into the slot here, but this little thing prevents it from doing that. So we are gonna just cut that off. And if I can find my big slicing device. Here we go. There we go. Gonna focus again? Maybe not. There we go. Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna take our box cutter here and cut that off. I don't want to go too deep in there. Just want to slice it down. Okay, so we just shredded that right off. And now we have a smooth side right there. Okay. Okay, so one of the things that we have to pay attention to. And since we're on the first half right now, it's not going to be tremendously important, but it will be when we go to wire our other half, which is when we put these in, obviously these two things will be the same on both sides. However, with the cord that we're going to be using, if you're using one that's already made, what is going to happen is, this is a lot of times, you know, one of the things I was confused about was I was also trying to buy like a regular telephone cord to use as the connector between the halves, but this is not a regular telephone cord. This will be sold as what's called a handset cord. So this would be the cord that goes between the actual phone, like the base of the phone, and the handset of the phone. So not between the phone and the wall, but between the phone and the handset, the part you would actually hold on to. So what we have to know, though, what the big difference is besides the number of pins is the wires in here are flipped between the two halves. Let go. No. No, impossible to focus. Okay, whatever. But there we go. Between these two halves, like on this side, if we're looking at it this way, it goes black, red, green, yellow. And then on this side, it actually goes the opposite. It goes yellow, green, red, black. So they are basically flopped between the two sides. So we need to make sure that our wiring reflects that. So we can't just connect the same colors here as the same colors over here. So we'll have to just keep that in mind when we wire the other half. But for right now, we're not going to worry about that too much. Okay, so we'll put this aside. And okay, so we've got our little jack here. What we're going to do is we're going to put these wires through this hole right here. Okay, so let's see if we can see this. It's going to go through there. Okay, and you can kind of see like which way that needs to be oriented. It's going to need to be like this, and then we're going to slide that in there. And once we have this all wired the way we want, then we're going to just dab a teeny bit of either super glue or hot glue on the inside to hold this in place, because we don't want this to pull out. Okay, so now we've got our wires coming through into the case, which is what we want. And there's a couple ways you can do this. One of the ways you could do it is to take, remember last time we used these pre-made Dupont jumper wires with the female ends. And since the ones we were using had two female ends, we ended up cutting some of those ends off. Like that's what these are, the cutoffs. So we could just strip the end of this and connect them to these wires if we wanted to. You know what? Let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and do that today. And on the other side, I will show you how to crimp the Dupont connectors directly onto the ends of these, because these actually have just enough length to be able to connect them to the Pro Micro without adding any wires. But let's just do this, maybe not the easier way, but the way that requires fewer specialty tools. So I'm trying to show, maybe, I think on the other half, when we show how to do that, I'm going to show you how to do these things with maybe a few more tools. And on this half, I'd like to do it with the fewest amount of, you know, fancier kind of tools, in case you don't want to be actually buying all of that stuff and keep the price down. Okay, so let's see. Let's take, I think these are all gonna need to come apart anyway, so let's just strip these off. Okay, so we're gonna need 3 wires. And I say there are 4 here, but we only need 3 to complete the serial connection between the 2 halves, okay? I believe if you're using I2C instead of serial connection, then you need additional wires, maybe 1 more wire, I'm not sure. But for the default Dactyl Manuform firmware that we're going to use, it uses serial by default. So we'll just do that for this time. Okay, so I'm going to warm up. Oops, let's take this end off. Oh, by the way, this is, I was talking about the fact that I had already put these little nuts into these slots on the case. This is what's going to allow us to screw the bottom on. And I had mentioned, you know, melting them in. This is the special tip that lets you do that. You can use a regular soldering iron tip, but of course you don't really want to get the plastic accidentally anywhere on it. So this is a little nicer for putting those ends on. We'll take that off for now, though. Put our regular tip back on. Okay, and we'll get that warmed up. Okay, we will need to strip the ends of these wires, so let's do that while we're waiting for it to heat up. Just doing like 5 millimeters or so, kind of standard here. We'll twist these off. Twist, 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 twist. Okay, and what we're shooting for here, just so we kind of have our roadmap here, is this. Let's see. So RJ9, that's our phone handset cord connector. It's, as you can see in this diagram, it's using 3 wires. So here, this is the ground. This one is voltage. So this is where the power is actually coming from between the 2 halves. Since this is the left half, this will be where the power is, you know, going out to the other half. And then this one here, this green, I know you can't really see it there, but this green one here is where the actual serial communication is happening on this port right here. Okay. Okay. So, okay, we got our iron heated up here. Get this out of the way. And let's connect these bad boys. Just gonna do a simple. You can do this nicer, fancier if you want to, but I'm just gonna twist these off and throw some solder on there. You could use like well, I'm gonna try. You could use some heat shrink tubing to kind of make this a little more secure. But again, we're trying to do this half, you know, nice and simple, without using too much specialty stuff. Just gonna try that. All right. Okay, let's just throw. Ooh, that was a little molten driplet right there. Okay, those look fine. We can just throw a little tape around this actually. If you still got some of our capped on tape, we can just fold a little piece over that. work. Of course, these colors don't make any kind of sense, but whatever. Let's see. We'll go full Christmas. We can do our red and green ones. Okay. Oh, that one's a little short. That's okay. That is okay. Let's put a little tape on that one. Always just basically trying to avoid any potential short outs here where we have anything metal touching anything else in the case that is not supposed to be touching. Okay, we'll do one more, and we will just leave that yellow one alone because we're actually not going to use that right now. A little more tape and we'll be good to go. Okay. All right. Get the excess little piece off. Okay. All right. Okay. So we've got 3 ends here. And at this point, it's kind of arbitrary which ones you decide you're going to connect where. It's when we get to the other side that it'll be important. So I'm just going to say, let's throw this one that's red here. Let's throw that one onto our power. So that is going to be on the Pro Micro. It is the pin that is labeled VCC. VCC. I know it's hard to see. It's the 4th one down on the right hand side. And then we will take this black one, connect that to ground right there. That's the second one down from the top on the right. And then we will take this one, which is green on the connector end, and we're going to connect that one to, what was it, number 4, I think the label is. Oh, I'm sorry, 3. Okay. So basically, the easy way to remember that is there's your 6 columns right here, and then just beyond that is that pin for serial. Okay, so it's right there. So from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6th one down from the top on the left. Okay. So we've got all of those connected. We'll try to push these maybe out of the way because when we put the bottom of our case on, these are going to get a little smushed down. So maybe we can just push these over here. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Okay. So just kind of out of the way down there. And then this one is not really going to be connected to anything, so just try to keep it out of the way. Sometimes I will just tie a little knot in it. loop that and just push it down there with the rest of them. Should be fine. Okay. So we've made our connection there. That's good. Ooh, this one is kind of flying off. You notice that any of the pins are kind of being pulled off just naturally from the tension on the cables. You can strip it a little bit further, maybe down the ribbon, so that maybe you're not going to have that problem so bad. That's better. That's better. It's not coming off anymore. Okay. And I think our bottom ones look okay down there too. That's not bad. Okay. We just know that when we put the bottom on this, it is gonna, you know, these all need to be flat. Okay. All right. So we've got our connection there. I think, you know what, the only other, okay, let's get this one out of the way as well. So what we also need, we need to have, I guess technically you don't need this, but it's a very good idea to just go ahead and do this. To have, well, no, I'm sorry. On the left side, we do need this. On the right side, it's sort of optional, but it's a good idea to just put it on both, which is the USB connection. So that'll be between the computer and our actual board. There's a slot for that right here. There's a number of different types of little USB extenders that you can get. Let me see what I've got right now. Yeah, let's do these. I like these better. So there's a few, there's a lot of different types of these. This kind is the cheapest, I think. These are super duper cheap on AliExpress. This just goes from micro USB to micro USB female. So this, let's see. Yep. So basically all we're doing, this is super simple. We're just extending this USB connection out to here so that we can plug it in from the outside of the board while the bottom is on it. So these work fine, but you do have to kind of shred these down a bit to make them fit in here. So I'm going to use a little bit of an easier, slightly more expensive one, but definitely easier one, which are these. I don't know if you can see the label there. These are, I think I got these on Amazon for not too much dollars. So these though, one of the other reasons these are just a little bit more is that they go from micro USB to USB-C, thank God, which is a lot more stable and to me preferable of a connector. So we're just going to use one at the moment, so I'll set the other one aside. So this one's going to go, and also these are a little more flexible. Like these are super short, they don't take up any room in the case. So I'm going to just, this is probably going to be hard to see from out there, but basically we went like that. Okay, so we've got that end plugged in, and if you want, you can plug this in before you slide the Pro Micro in, but I usually forget. So we got that plugged in. The other end of this is just gonna get pushed out. Sometimes you gotta mush it a little bit. Come on. There we go. Okay. You can just kind of wiggle that around until it goes where you want. Okay. Can we focus? Let's focus on that. Why not? There we go. Okay. So you can see now we have our USB-C port on the outside of the case. Hooray! And we'll throw a little bit of hot glue in there in a second to secure that in place so that when we're plugging in and out of here, it's not going to eventually push it back in here or pull it out the front or the back. Actually, I am going to fire up the glue gun now because there's a few things we're going to need to do with the glue gun. Okay. Doesn't hurt to just every once in a while kind of glance over, see if anything's gotten pushed down or anything's getting crisscrossed anywhere that it shouldn't be. I think we are okay though. All right. So as far as like wiring goes, we could be done now, but our goal is to basically make this as user friendly as possible. So one of the things that we should do is put an external reset switch so that when we want to flash the firmware, we have a nice easy button that we can press and we don't have to take the entire back of the case off every time we want to modify our key map. So I know that in QMK it is possible, you know, that it's not even difficult, but you can set up a key that, or a combination of keys that when you press them, it will do the same thing where it will reset. It's like hitting reset on the Pro Micro, and then you can flash it after that. But I like to have a physical switch just because I think in the default key map, I don't think there is included a reset button for some reason. I really don't know why. There may be some other key maps that are available in the repository that have reset switches. I just have not looked at them. So if anybody has a tip on that, let me know. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is, you know, our reset switch, I usually like put it pretty close to where the Pro Micro is. So usually in this general area. And I put it on the bottom of the case, which works out fine because what we end up having is a couple of little rubber feet on the bottom, and that gives it enough room where the switch is not going to accidentally get pressed. So I'm gonna say usually do it right about there, and we're totally eyeballing it, but that is okay. Just to show you what we're gonna use, maybe this will work. Okay, we are using these little tactile switches. So these are ultra cheap. If you're buying them online, they're like a couple cents. Honestly, they're like nothing. You can buy a big pack of them that has switches of different depths, so meaning like the button is longer, shorter, or whatever, which is handy because sometimes your case is thicker or thinner or whatever. But I'm using ones that look like this right now. Lord only knows what measurement that is. I don't know. It looks like about 3 millimeters tall, like the button part is about 3 millimeters or so. Okay, so I want this to just be sticking through maybe right around there. So we're gonna eyeball it. Let's see, right about there. Okay, I'm gonna put a dot there, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna drill a little hole that is big enough for the button and maybe a little extra so we have enough room to push the button. So usually I think I use this. Okay, this is a 3/16 drill bit, and that should give us plenty of room for the button. And because of obsessive reasons, I want both of the holes to be in the same spot, like so on both sides. So you know, there's saying in woodworking that goes enemy, or yeah, enemy is the enemy. That measurement is the enemy of accuracy, which sounds ridiculous, but really all that means is, you know, if you have the two actual real world items sitting right in front of you, and you can just stick them together and drill the hole through exactly the same spot on both of them, that is going to be probably more accurate than all of the measuring you could possibly do to get it into the same spot, or try to. So let's see. And you know, if you don't have a drill or whatever, you could use like a shitty soldering iron tip and just melt a hole through, but that leaves a lot of stuff around the edges, which I don't really love. So let's see. I have a piece of wood or something. Here we go. I'm going to try to just hold these together and drill through both of them. Also, you know, if you do any woodworking stuff, one thing that helps a lot if you're trying to drill through something and you don't want the other side to look like shit and have all these little shreddy things all over it, is you take the thing you're drilling through and press it against another item, like a waste board or something, just something that's okay to drill into, and then that is going to keep that outside edge from getting all fucked up. So that looks significantly better than it would if I just held it and drilled through it like this. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Okay, so we got our nice little hole there. I'll put this other side away. And okay, so this side is the bottom. So what it's going to end up looking like is like this. Okay, we'll try to center it in there, but if it's not perfect, it's not the end of the world. So it'll look like that, and then that'll be nice and easy to press our reset button when we need it. Okay, so I'm going to move this away. Okay, and what we have to do here is, with the glue gun, what we're trying to do, if we can focus, okay, what we're trying to do is we want to glue the sides, right? Just the sides. We want to glue from the side to the bottom to the inside of the case, right? But we don't want any of the glue to get underneath here. So we're just using a little bit, and I usually kind of just touch the side with the glue gun and then drag out like this. You don't want to push the glue into this area, or else you're going to freeze up the switch and then it will not do anything. So let's see how gluey we're going to get. I think this is heated up. And I think this is sticking out a little further beyond the bottom of this, so I'm going to have to maybe hold this up, or, oh, here we go. Let's do this. Thank you, hands. Okay. Oh, that's a creepy mirror. Okay. All right. So start on the side with no pins, maybe. Okay. It's gonna be all wiggly and goofy. So just let that set first, okay? If you try to just do all the sides at once, you're just gonna push it, and it's gonna wiggle all over the place, and probably you'll end up getting some of that glue in places where you don't want it. Okay, so we'll just let that kind of set up, just so that it's not swinging around it. Okay, no, not quite. You can use the fan that's built into your face. Okay, this glue, this is a high heat, high temp glue sticks, which is the only kind I think are good for this type of stuff. But once you see it turn a little bit opaque, like just a little, you probably can't tell, but just a little cloudy, that usually means it's set up enough where it's not liquid anymore. So we'll do the other side here. Okay, and as long as it's not moving around too much, you can probably do the other sides as well. We're trying to just give it enough of a base, like we want it to be connected enough around the edges that when you push up on it, it is not going to just push, but like pop the switch off of the bottom of the plate here. That ought to do it. Okay. Yep. Just got a little bit on all four sides. So definitely don't try to press it at this point. But if after just a moment here, it will be good to go. So we're gonna let that set up. Move that over. Wait for that, and then we can glue in our items over here. So with this piece, really, you're just gonna jam some glue in there. We don't want it squirting out the outside here, but you know, I just put a little bit on each side and maybe a little bit on the top and bottom. So there's some more, and I'll put a little bit in there. Okay, and that should be about all that's needed for that one. Just a little bit around the edges. Nobody's gonna see the inside, so it doesn't matter if it's a little slimy. And this, oh yeah, this one is the other thing that we need to glue in there. So since we have, you know, slack there, we can pull this out without hurting it. This one, there's a lot of little bits inside of there. Let's see if this will. Yeah, no. A lot of little pieces in there that you, just like with the switches, you don't want to throw too much glue in there and get them all gummed up, or else it's not going to work, and we'll have to rewire that whole part. So we just want a teeny little bit on the sides, probably, and I'm actually going to just put the glue on the case instead of this piece, because if you put it on this piece and then you slide it in, it's going to squirt out the edges. So let's just put a tiny bit on the inside here. Okay, just a little bit, and then slide this in there. Cool. I don't think we got that on anything that wasn't supposed to get glued. There. We don't see any like squirting out in there. We don't see it squirting out of the edges. Just a little bit on each side to hold it in. And that is not going anywhere in a second. Okay. All right. So, you know, at this point, we would probably, you know, since we've already tested our Pro Micro and made sure we could flash to it, it'd probably be fine to seal this up. But a lot of times, you know, you make little mistakes or little things, short it out, and you need to troubleshoot things. So you may not necessarily want to put the bottom on yet. but we're going to go ahead and just do it so that you can see what this looks like all put together. And then, oh, I'm sorry. The only other soldering we actually have to do for this side, I'm going to turn my hot glue gun off because that's voted like #2 most likely to burn down your house. So this is super good, feels secure, and before you wire it in, do yourself a favor, press it, make sure you can hear it clicking, because that means it's pressing and going back to where it's unpressed. I don't know what that's called. And it's not gonna pop off. Okay, so we don't want to wire it and then have it just pop off immediately. So okay, so on these the first time I wired this, I could not figure out this very, very simple thing that when you're wiring this, I'd figured the sides would be like across from each other, but it's each of these sides. So this and this are the opposite leads, and then this and this would be the same thing. So we're gonna wire to, I guess we'll do this side. So this one and this one, and these are gonna get wired to 2 pins, which are oh, it's not even on here because they didn't even do that on this one. So anyway, we're fancy. So these are going to go, one of these is going to go to ground, and that's just any free ground pin, doesn't matter. And this one is going to go to the reset pin, which is just labeled RST on the Pro Micro. So I'm just going to do a little bit more solderings. And you know what? For these, I like to use longer leads for these because when we have this wired up and we take the bottom off the case, I don't want it to be so short that when we open the case this much, it's pulling on those pins. I want to be able to open it up all the way and still have this connected, or at least have enough that you can open it a little bit and then pull these off of the Pro Micro without it hurting anything. Okay, so let's split these. Okay, and we'll strip these ends. Twist them off. Okay, and I'm just doing real basic kind of quickie stuff here. So I'm just sort of making a hook or a little loop on each of these. Okay, so that I can just drop it onto each of those pins. Okay. And since this is just a 2-pole, whatever, it's just a switch that connects 2 leads, it does not matter which of these is which, and you can swap them on the Pro Micro too. So just don't even worry about remembering which one is which on here. It does not matter. That's the type of thing every time I say that, I feel like somebody's gonna send me a message and be like, well, actually. Okay, so solder. Okay, that's one. And oop, careful with these crappy little legs on this thing because they are made of like, I don't even know, it's like shit tin that really wants to just break off immediately. So just take it easy with them. Like if you bend this in one direction and then bend it back, that's basically, you've reached the maximum life cycle for any one of these legs. So let's see, there we go. So we got each of those connected. I am gonna use the one bending that these allow for and bend them down like this, okay, so that they're going sideways instead of straight up. And then these two on the other side, you could just clip these off, but I always figure if these break, I'd like to have the option, so I usually just bend them down like this so they're out of the way and they're not going to catch on anything. And okay, so we are going to take these two Dupont connectors, and what do we want? We want reset and ground. So we already used one of the ground pins for our serial connection, but we have several more on the left side of the Pro Micro. So I think let's just count down 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if we count 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a ground. And then our reset pin is on the right, and that's the 3rd pin down. So in between those two that are already plugged in there on the right-hand side of it. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, now you see why we wanted some length on that. But yeah, okay, I think we're in a good shape there. Just gonna make sure these wires aren't pushing on each other too crazy. And that looks like a keyboard. We're gonna go ahead and just seal this bad boy up. Just so we can feel a tremendous sense of accomplishment today that we've made just part of a keyboard. I think we need 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put the rest away. These are the nuts that we're using are M3. So these are just M3 screws. I think the bottoms are designed for these flat-headed ones so that the top of the screw will sit flush with the bottom of the case. So I have some that are like hex heads, but we'll just use these little Phillips heads for today. Oh yeah, usually like after 3D printing this, these holes, they're kind of smaller. They're a little smaller than the size of the screws. So sometimes I'll just pop them through, and that makes it easier to line them up. There we go. And they're just sitting in there. They're not going anywhere. Come on. Okay. One more. Okay. So we'll just go around and tighten those up. I don't know if this is the right. Nope. This is just a bigger one. For some reason, these have like a very wide groove on them. I don't know why. And sometimes these are a little hard to get in. Like this one was hard for whatever reason. Sometimes just a little bit of the plastic ends up squirting up back through the center of that nut, which makes it harder to get the screw in. But just do it as hard as you need to without, you know, stripping out the screw. That most of these are nice and easy. Yeah, that one not as much. There's probably some gunk in there. Oh well. That one really doesn't want to go. I don't know. You can go back in there, and sometimes if you screw these in once, then screw them back out, and then take the bottom cover off and shake out these holes, some little plastic shreds will come out. That's not bad though. That's pretty good. Okay, all right. And what we'll do now is just throw on some little footsies. Get our footsie bag out. Sounds worse than it is. Okay, I'll just do, I think this one wants some circular ones. So let's usually do like 4 or 5 of these, but it is up to you. I think just due to the shape of this board, you can't I mean, ideally it would be 3 because that makes things very easy to balance, but a lot of times it is more like 4, just because if you have, even like if you put them here, like try to put them like furthest apart, the board still kind of rocks just due to the weird shape of it. So we'll just try it with 4 here. Okay. Got some footsies on there, and these, I think these were just another Amazon thing here. Gorilla Grit. Okay, so we got those on. That's looking pretty fly. So that's half a keyboard. You'd think by now we would have like 5 keyboards, but that's a nice looking keyboard. Okay, so we will, oh, you know what, let's satisfy this too. So this will go in here, okay, and then this is the cable that will connect the 2 halves and let us do some splitsies. So I think next time we will get into our other half, and we'll be going over some other techniques. So if you really wanted to, you could do the other half, just play these videos back like flipped like this, and it's exactly the same thing pretty much, except for how we're gonna wire this, but we will go over that. But what I'm gonna do is in this series, I'm gonna go over other like different techniques for wiring the other side, so that you know, whatever seems like it appeals the most to you, you can use those techniques to build your own. So thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next one.